Imagine that you are alone on a rocky island in the middle of the Aegean Sea, exiled for the crime of believing in something that the empire considered too dangerous to exist. The wind cuts your skin like frozen razors, and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks echoes in your soul like war drums. You are John, the last living apostle, and you are about to witness a vision that will make emperors tremble with fear for the next 2,000 years. It was the year 95 after Christ when John saw something that would forever change how humanity understands the end times. He saw 4 horsemen emerging from the apocalypse itself, each carrying a specific form of destruction, each representing a force that would devastate the earth in ways that would make the worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. But here's what chills me most about this vision. These horsemen are not just a prophecy about the distant future. They are riding now, at this very moment, through our cities, our homes, our very lives. And most people don't even realize that we are already living through the first stages of this terrifying prophecy. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you who these 4 horsemen are, what each one represents, and I'm going to prove to you that they have already begun their mission of destruction. I'm going to reveal to you the signs that John described 2,000 years ago and that are manifesting today with a precision that should frighten anyone who still has a minimum of sanity. If you're afraid of the supernatural, if you prefer to live in the illusion that the world is heading toward something better, I advise you to stop watching now. Because after this video you will never again look at world events, economic crises, political conflicts, pandemics in the same way. You will realize that there is a pattern, a sequence, a plan being executed exactly as it was prophesied. Prepare yourself to meet the 4 most terrifying beings that have ever emerged from the pages of biblical prophecy. Prepare to meet the 4 most terrifying beings to ever emerge from the pages of biblical prophecy. To understand who these horsemen are, first we need to understand how they were released. John was in heaven in spirit when he saw something that made his heart stop. A book in the right hand of the one who was seated on the throne, written inside and outside, sealed with 7 seals. This was not an ordinary book. It was the book of humanity's destiny, the final plan for Earth, the last chapters of human history written even before the creation of the world. But there was a problem. The book was sealed, and a mighty angel proclaimed with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose its seals?" John wept much because no one in heaven, nor on earth, nor under the earth, could open the book or even look at it. Imagine the agony of knowing that the secrets of the future were there, but no one had the authority to reveal them. But then a lamb appeared as though it had been slain, and he took the book. And when he began to open the seals, history began to accelerate toward its final climax. The first 4 seals would release forces that would transform the earth into a cosmic battlefield. John wrote, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say as with a voice of thunder, 'Come.'" That word, "come," was not a gentle invitation. It was a war summons, a command that would release forces that had been contained since the beginning of time. And then they appeared, one by one, riding out of eternity and entering human history with the singular purpose of preparing the world for the final judgment. "And I looked, and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer." The first horseman rode a white horse. At first glance you might think this was a hero, a liberator, someone who would bring peace and justice to the world. The white color symbolizes purity, and the crown indicates legitimate authority. But John knew there was something terribly wrong with this figure. This horseman carried a bow, but there was no mention of arrows. This is a crucial clue. He would conquer not through brute force, but through something far more insidious: disinformation, propaganda, manipulation of the masses. He would win by making people voluntarily believe lies. The white horse of this horseman is a deliberate imitation of the white horse that Jesus rides in Revelation 19. It is the perfect counterfeit of the true king, so convincing that it would deceive even intelligent and well-intentioned people. This horseman represents the spirit of Antichrist that John said was already operating in the world of the first century. It is not necessarily a specific person, but a system of thought, a philosophy of life that presents itself as enlightened, progressive, benevolent, but which in reality is preparing the way for the total enslavement of humanity. Look around you today. See how narratives are constructed and propagated through media, social networks, educational institutions. See how basic truths about biology, economics, morality, spirituality are being redefined. See how those who question these narratives are immediately labeled, canceled, marginalized. The first horseman doesn't need an army. He uses our own minds as the battlefield. He plants doubts about eternal truths and offers new revelations that always lead to the same destination: more power for the controllers and less freedom for the controlled. The crown he received was not conquered in battle, it was given to him. This means that his authority is voluntarily recognized by the masses. People choose to follow him because he promises solutions to problems that he himself created. This horseman is already riding through our streets, through our homes, through our schools, through our governments. He manifests every time a lie is accepted as truth, every time propaganda replaces critical thinking, every time convenience becomes more important than conscience. And the most terrifying thing is that he is preparing the ground for the other three horsemen. Because a society that has lost the ability to distinguish truth from lies becomes vulnerable to all other forms of destruction. But if you think mind manipulation is the worst these nights have to offer, you have no idea what's coming. The next night I'll show you brings something that will make propaganda look like a harmless joke. This knight doesn't just want to control your opinions, he wants to destroy your ability to coexist peacefully with other human beings. And when you discover how he operates today, you'll understand why families are falling apart, why neighbors have become enemies, why the very idea of civilization is crumbling before our eyes. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. The second horseman rides a horse red as blood. His mission is singular and devastating, to take peace from the earth. But not through conventional wars between nations. The prophecy specifies that they should kill one another. This indicates civil war, internal conflict, the destruction of society from within. This horseman received a great sword. In biblical symbolism, the sword represents conflict, division, the power to separate and destroy. But notice that he doesn't use the sword directly, he gives it to other people to use against each other. The diabolical genius of this horseman is that he transforms every difference of opinion into an existential war. He takes issues that could be debated civilly and turns them into battles for the very survival of humanity. He makes each side see the other not as fellow citizens with different perspectives, but as mortal enemies who must be destroyed. Think about how our society has become polarized in recent years. We're not just disagreeing about policies, we're seeing ourselves as different, irreconcilable species. Public health issues have become religious wars. Political differences have become justifications for destroying family relationships. Academic debates have become battlefields where careers are destroyed and lives are ruined. The Red Horseman doesn't need to invade countries. He operates through our own internal divisions. He amplifies every resentment, every perceived injustice, every cultural difference until they become unbridgeable chasms. See how it works. First, he identifies any natural line of division in society: race, class, religion, age, gender, political orientation. Then he begins to amplify the differences, making each group believe it is under existential attack from the other groups. He transforms discussions into wars, debates into battles, differences into mortal hatred. The result is a society where no one trusts anyone, where every institution is viewed with suspicion, where the very idea of common good becomes impossible because we can't even agree on what constitutes good. This horseman is already operating on a global scale. Look at the violent protests, the insurrections, the separatist movements, the rise of extremisms from all sides of the political spectrum. See how families destroy themselves over political differences, how churches divide over social issues, how communities fragment into hostile tribes. The prophecy doesn't say there would be a great world war. It says that peace itself would be removed from the earth, that people would kill one another. It's much more efficient to destroy a society from the inside out than to try to conquer it from the outside in. And the darkest part is that this horseman prepares the way for the third. Because a society in constant civil war becomes incapable of producing, of prospering, of caring for its most vulnerable members. It becomes an easy target for the next form of devastation. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." The third horseman rides a horse black as night, and carries something that should terrify us: a balance. This is not the balance of justice. It is the balance of artificial scarcity, of rationing, of total economic control. The voice that John heard was dictating prices. A measure of wheat for a penny represented an entire day's wage being spent just to buy enough food for one person for one day. It was the description of an economy where people work only to survive, with nothing left over to prosper, to invest in the future, to care for younger or older generations. But here's the most sinister detail: and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. This means that luxury products would remain available for those who could pay for them. This is not famine caused by natural disasters or wars that destroy all production. This is artificial famine created through control of distribution. The Black Horseman represents an economic system where abundance exists, but is out of reach for ordinary people. It's the perfect description of a two-tier economy, an elite class that has access to everything and a mass of workers who live perpetually on the edge of survival. Think about the current economic situation. We have more technology, more production capacity, more available resources than at any time in human history. And yet, we have people starving, people homeless, people working 3 jobs and still unable to pay for basic necessities. This is not an accident. It's the result of deliberate policies that concentrate wealth in the hands of a few while keeping the majority in a state of economic dependence. It's the result of financial systems that create money out of nothing for banks, but charge extortionate interest to workers. It's the result of corporations that receive government bailouts while small businesses are forced into bankruptcy. The Black Horseman operates through controlled inflation, currency manipulation, artificial creation of scarcity. He makes basic products expensive while keeping luxuries available that only an elite can buy. See how it works in practice. Prices of basic foods, housing, education, healthcare skyrocket much faster than wages. Meanwhile, financial assets, art, luxury products remain accessible to those who already have significant capital. The result is a society where the middle class disappears, where there exists only a very wealthy elite and a mass of people living on the edge of poverty, dependent on governments and corporations for their basic survival. This economic dependence makes people vulnerable to any form of control. When you need to work constantly just to survive, you don't have time or energy to question the system, to fight for freedoms, to build alternatives. And here's the connection with the other horseman. The first horseman uses propaganda to make people accept this system as inevitable or even desirable. The second horseman prevents people from uniting to resist, keeping them in conflict with each other. And the third horseman keeps them too busy fighting for survival to be able to organize effective resistance. But if you think propaganda, civil war, and economic scarcity are the height of horror these horsemen can bring, you haven't yet encountered the most terrifying of all. The fourth horseman I'm about to show you now brings with him something that not only kills bodies but devastates souls, not only takes lives but removes the very hope of existence. And when you discover who or what this horseman represents today, you'll understand why the prophecy says he has power over 1/4 of the entire earth. Here's the English translation. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. The 4th horseman is the most terrifying of all. He rides a pale horse, the color of disease, decomposition, imminent death. His name is Death, and he is followed by hell itself. As if physical death were not enough, souls would also need to be collected. This horseman has power to kill 1/4 of the earth's population. Do the math. Today that would represent almost 2 billion people. But observe the methods: sword, hunger, pestilence, and the beasts of the earth. The sword represents direct violence, war, murders, executions. Hunger we already saw with the third horseman. Pestilence represents diseases, pandemics, collapse of health systems. But the beasts of the earth is an expression that deserves special attention. In biblical symbolism, beasts often refer to brutal governments, political systems that devour their own citizens. Daniel saw empires as ferocious beasts. John is prophesying that in the end times, governments themselves would become predators of their peoples. But there is something even more sinister about this horseman. He brings not only physical death, he brings spiritual death, death of hope, death of meaning, death of the will to live. The fact that hell follows him indicates that he is collecting not just bodies but souls. Think about the suicide epidemics we're seeing today, especially among young people. Think about the existential despair that permeates our culture, the feeling that life has no purpose, that the future is dark, that nothing is worth fighting for. This horseman operates through the destruction of meaning. He makes people lose faith in God, in family, in community, in the future. He transforms human existence into an experience of suffering without purpose. See how he works in conjunction with the other horsemen. The first horseman destroys truth, leaving people confused about what is real. The second horseman destroys community, leaving people isolated and hostile to each other. The third horseman destroys economic security, leaving people desperate and vulnerable. And then the fourth horseman appears to collect the victims of the other three. He finds a disoriented, divided, impoverished population, and offers them the only solution that remains: death as an escape from suffering. But this horseman is not just about physical mortality. He represents the death of entire civilizations. When a society loses its fundamental truths, when its communities destroy themselves, when its economy collapses, when its members lose the will to live, that society dies even if some individuals are still biologically alive. The power over the fourth part of the earth doesn't necessarily mean that he kills a fourth of the people at once. It may mean that he has dominion over a fourth of Earth's territories, transforming entire regions into death zones, not just physical death, but cultural death, spiritual death, death of hope. Look at certain regions of the world today where life has become an experience of pure suffering, where governments brutalize their own peoples, where the economy is in total collapse, where diseases spread uncontrolled, where violence has become the norm, where people have lost any hope for a better future. What makes this prophecy truly terrifying is not the individual horsemen, but how they work together in a perfectly coordinated symphony of destruction. They don't appear randomly, they follow a logical sequence, each one preparing the ground for the next. The first horseman, conquest through deception, always comes first because you need to destroy people's ability to think clearly before you can implement any other form of control. A population that can still distinguish truth from lies is a population that can resist. Once truth has been sufficiently distorted, the second horseman can appear with his sword of division. People who can no longer agree on basic facts cannot form effective coalitions against their oppressors. They spend all their energy fighting each other instead of fighting those who are manipulating them. When society is sufficiently divided and distracted, the third horseman can implement his systems of economic control without significant resistance. People who are fighting with each other don't notice that they are all being impoverished by the same system. And finally, when a population is disoriented, divided, and impoverished, the fourth horseman can appear to reap what the others have sown. People who have lost their fundamental truths, their communities, their economic security, easily lose their will to live as well. This is not an accidental sequence. It is a deliberate strategy to completely dismantle a civilization. And the most terrifying thing is that this strategy is being implemented globally, simultaneously, on a scale unprecedented in human history. See how the four horsemen are operating today. We have massive disinformation campaigns undermining our ability to distinguish fact from fiction. We have extreme political polarization destroying our ability to function as a society. We have inflation and economic instability impoverishing the middle class and concentrating wealth in the hands of an ever smaller elite. And we have epidemics of depression, anxiety, suicide, and violence destroying our collective will to build a better future. But there is something even darker about this prophecy. John did not see these horsemen being defeated by human resistance. They continue riding until they are interrupted by direct divine intervention. This suggests that once they begin to operate, purely human forces are insufficient to stop them. But if this prophecy is so dark, why was John instructed to write it? Why would God reveal such a terrifying future for humanity? The answer lies in the very context of the vision. John saw these horsemen being released not by evil forces operating independently, but by the Lamb himself opening the seals. This means that even this devastation serves a greater purpose, that there is a plan being executed that transcends the apparent chaos. The four horsemen are not the end of the story, they are the preparation for a new beginning. They serve to expose the true nature of human systems based on lies, division, greed, and death. They reveal where these philosophies lead when followed to their logical conclusions. For those who recognize the signs, who understand what is happening, there is an opportunity to make different choices. The prophecy is not given to make us give up, it is given to make us wake up. John saw that after the devastation of the horsemen, after the complete collapse of corrupt human systems, something new emerges from the ashes. He saw a new heaven and a new earth, a new Jerusalem descending from heaven, a kingdom where justice truly reigns, where truth is restored, where genuine community is possible, where abundance is shared, where death is finally defeated. But here's the crucial part. The vision also shows that not everyone experiences this new beginning. There is a separation that takes place. Those who voluntarily chose to follow the horsemen, who embraced lies over truth, division over unity, greed over generosity, death over life, discover that their choices have eternal consequences. The prophecy of the four horsemen is not just about future events, it's about present choices. Each day, each moment, we are choosing to follow either the horseman of destruction or the king of life. When you choose to seek truth even when it's inconvenient, you are resisting the first horseman. When you choose to pursue reconciliation and unity even when it's difficult, you are resisting the second horseman. When you choose generosity and contentment over greed and envy, you are resisting the third horseman. When you choose hope and meaning over despair and nihilism, you are resisting the fourth horseman. The prophecy of the four horsemen of the apocalypse is not just ancient history or religious fiction. It is a warning, a map, a revelation of where our civilization is heading if we continue on the paths we have chosen. These horsemen are already riding. You can see them in every day's headlines, in the divisions within your own community, in the anxiety of your own soul. The question is not whether they will come, the question is whether you will recognize them, whether you will resist them, whether you will choose a different path. Because in the end, the most terrifying prophecy of the apocalypse also carries within it the most glorious hope, that those who do not bow before the horsemen of destruction will discover that there is a king mounted on a white horse, not the false king of the first horseman, but the true king, who comes not to conquer through deception, but to liberate through truth. The choice is yours. The horsemen are riding. Which side will you choose? If this video opened your eyes to what is really happening in the world today, share it with others who need to see these signs. And subscribe to the channel because the journey through history's darkest prophecies is just beginning. Tentar novamente o Claude Pod Cometer Arrows. Confira sempre as respostas.